because if you understand that, then the way things appear can shift, really, not temporarily like we've been used to. And so for those fortunate enough to pierce through the appearance of these teachings from ancient Tibet and India, for those of you who get the opportunity to actually hear the song that's called in somewhere in there, and then you have the guts to break through all the stigma of cultural references and self-weirdness, and you actually put some of these things into practice, like meditation, contemplation, compassion, you will see results like you've never seen before. So it's been my privilege to teach over the last 7 years, and this is the last formal class. I'm going to probably cry a bunch of times. Just warning you now. So with the motivation that wishes for your reality to turn into something pure, let's do a mandala offering.
Sashi Bhuhi Jishin Metotram Vira Vinci Inde Vimpadi Sange Shindu Mite Vargi Drokun Nanda Shinda Shipansho Idam Guru Ratnaman Nalakam Nirayatayami Sange Chidam Sohi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Daki Chunyang Kipe Sonamki Drova Ganchir Sange Druparsho Sange Chidam Sohi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Daki Chunyang Kipe Sonamki Drova Ganchir Sange Druparsho Sange Chidam Sohi Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Yapsuchi Daki Chunyang Kipe Sonamki Drova Ganchir Sange Druparsho. Let's try that. So we're in a course called What the Buddha Really Meant. We're summarizing a course over the period of things fall apart, by the way. It's one of the teachings today. We're here. Yeah. What the Buddha Really Meant. It's a course that takes 10 weeks. And it covers the art of interpreting Buddha's words so you can turn it into a practice. And the reason for that is because Buddha taught slightly different things throughout the period of his life. And the premise that you would learn if you took the entire course is to understand that he taught to the capacity of students. And through the beginning period of his teaching career, he taught certain things to let people practice. In the middle, he taught certain things to help different people practice or go deeper. And then some people had questions and were weirded out or doubtful and said, oh, can you clarify a couple of things? So then he taught something slightly different. And generally, you could say he taught 3 different ways of looking at the world and to practice. And they're not necessarily contradictory,
They are sort of layers upon each other, and I hope to cover that tonight about one main topic, the ultimate topic, the one thing that makes everything function, the linchpin of Buddhist thought, the idea of emptiness. Yeah, so we want to dispel misunderstanding of emptiness, because the idea is if we understand that, if we get what that is, then everything makes sense, and you can actually begin to work in your world with predictable results rather than work in our world with sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't, which is what we're doing currently. I'll cover it. So that's the point of this entire text. The text is called Drangye, and in essence, Buddha said, and this is just a little bit of a summary from last class, and then you'll break out into groups, that everything you see around you has a nature. Stuff is stuff. This is a flower, this is a room, you are a person, things are things, and that's what they are, and they're just like that. And we all live and operate under that premise. And then he went a little haywire, and he's like, nothing has a nature. Things are empty of a nature. Nothing is what it seems. There's no self-nature to things. There's no self-nature to things. Yeah? So philosophically, if you understand what he means there, that means like, oh, I can understand if things don't have a nature, something else is giving them their nature because they are things. What is that thing? And that's the whole study of karma and causation, dependent origination, and so on. So you can function in your world going, oh, it's something else causing stuff in my world. I can operate with that. And then towards the end of his career, or the reason for this entire course, is because somebody came up and said, hold on, Dr. Buddha, you said that things were just like they were, things are things, and then you said things are not things. What do you mean? I don't understand. And Buddha had to go and clarify a bunch of points, and he clarified a bunch of points. We covered them a little bit of them last time. In the course, if you take the course, you've got quite deep in understanding everything in your experience, every physical thing, every mental thing, every emotion, every thought, every feeling, every sensation. You can apply these ideas to and be able to understand them in a different way that we're currently operating. So if the Buddha taught 3 different things about how to go about fixing our world that we don't like, or keeping the world that we like going, which one should we follow? And that's the incredible thing about this course. It looks at texts and words from the Buddha and analysis on, can we use our understanding of the world to interpret Buddhist thought? Because do you remember J. Tsongkhapa's reasoning why we should use our knowledge, our understanding of the world to figure out the answer rather than take someone else's word? Do you remember that? Why?
Because the Buddha contradicted himself, so you can't even take his word.
Yeah, so I mean, this to me was like heresy and sort of liberating at the same time. Like J. Tsongkhapa in the 1300s said, you can't even trust the Buddha's word about how to interpret the Buddha's word. Because the Buddha said, this is true, operate in the world this way. No, this is true, operate in the world this way. What did you mean? Oh, I meant this and not this. Which one should we take? And this incredible master in the 1400s, J. Tsongkhapa, the teacher of the first Dalai Lama, wrote a commentary on how to understand what the Buddha really meant. And the onus is on us. Us in this broken realm get to figure out what the code behind the matrix is. You can't even take Buddha's word for it. You have something in you that lets you understand your world. And that's the point of this incredible text. We don't do it justice in this review class. All I want is whet your appetite to say, I want to take that course. I want to go and find out what that means. And it's heady. Who's taken that course here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How good was it? Be honest.
It was my first ACI course.
Oh, okay. Good. So what we do traditionally is for you to get to know each other, to catch up on more than just this, on the ideas that bring us to this class, because this class we're talking on one topic, all the different ways Buddha taught about this immense idea called emptiness and how it helps us. How can we actually use it in our jobs, in our relationships, in our lives to transform things we don't like and keep things we like in an ultimate way? So that's what we're covering tonight. But to get there, I need you all to get to know each other, do a quick review of last class. And for that, here's something we've prepared earlier. We have a couple of people who are going to take groups. So Stephen takes a group sort of here in the center. Just get yourself around Stephen. The answers are at the top and the quizzes are at the back. So Priya is going to take a group over here. So just crowd around Supriya, the answer, and then the quizzes are at the back. Yeah. Then at the back there we got Rachel. Go hang out with Rachel. In that corner we got Jacqueline. And in this corner we got Sarah. Jacqueline and Hannibal, can you work together? And Sarah and John and Connie get to work together in this corner over here. Yeah? Enjoy. I'll see you in 15 minutes when you get to review last week's class. Please write your names down on the answer key. Introduce yourselves. Don't worry, I gave you the answer. I gave you the answer. Steve, oh, you got that group? Yeah. Yeah. Some of them can go over there, some of them can go over there. Is that enough? Yeah. Anthony, can you bring me a napkin? One of those long napkins.
Okay, so everyone go around the same name.
We have these 3 questions, and they're pretty similar.
All right. So I'm supposed to know what you're
Yeah, it's just that these things trigger.
Number 1. Nowadays, some people say that intelligence is the point of Buddhism, while others say that happiness is something known only intuitively and not from the foundation of organized life. Described in quotation by Lord Buddha himself as this Anybody recall? Yeah,
So that contract.
So how do you describe
The experience. I have no knowledge of ways that
We don't learn how to
and
do
so that's a passion. So the question for me is,
Yeah, it was. Things that wanted to stuff in life. Almost
There's something that shows up, you know, you wouldn't know.
Oh, it was this thing that like, you can't
Describe three different levels of abstraction: literal and figurative.
So you can't know how to
Literal and
Right.
So you need somebody that is.
And the three different levels of abstraction: literal and figurative.
Concourse is really awesome.
So,
Okay.
so
First one is level 6 questions. You're going after the meeting match.
With your.
Do the words match the meaning?
Anybody who doesn't know the game, so the way out is
They're saying there's two other levels of research that we're going to define right now. So usually, like, literally, the words on file are actually whereas like figurative, you know, there would be like, well, I'm pointing to something. Like I would say, like, it's but if I saw the pen as like,
All of it's
it's all of this oh my God, not one
Hold
on to everything you're saying.
Question one, Eric.
Would it be what? Something to, no, it's literally just saying, are you perceiving it? But I have to, we have to send two Buddhist statements about he was being figurative and when he was being literal, and not necessarily being taken literal. Rather, we in the end, we rely on what is logical and makes sense. He described three possible tests recommended by Lord Buddha that they could understand. Three logical tests by Lord Cutting it here and brushing rubbing it. So it's like a stove, right? You should not be thinking or like or the word of being in question.
She's so beautiful.
So Buddha, she's incredible, and he's contradicting that all the time. Right.
No.
How do we learn Dharma or about karma and another person, right? So we don't get we take and then once we start to put these eyes then maybe we don't have a direct experience of it. Since we don't have this yet, but we know or like what to do. So it's pretty true. Like what people say makes sense. Like and then lastly, it would be our own direct experience. So not necessarily. I'm saying the three tests are your own experience, your deductive experience, or something that you feel has How we get to the right.
So it has to do with testing the budget, testing it, testing your wise people. Yeah. So what is that? And those are figurative. And then you have to find what we mean.
Because we do our stuff. Yeah, well, it's also a little
so that's
so from one everyone said nowadays some people say that knowledge is not the main point of Buddhism, while others say that this is something intuitively and not in Buddhism organized studies. Describe the expectation of Lord Buddha himself as this based on Kappa himself, he has expectation from the teacher by the realized being. He says that beings must wander here, this suffering life, because they have no knowledge of the ways of others, and have no compassion, meaning there is an elder who is reasons to bring them into. So basically,
suffering guided by
because people are arguing like, this is the main point of others saying like, well, you want to know emptiness intuitively. Oh, you can only know emptiness intuitively. And that's what I'm saying. They're saying people that are basically that are suffering.
No, can you give me a second?
they're basically saying only a Buddha
He must be at what is possible.
they're using self-forming, they're using different ways to get these ideas across. And it's really in other words, I understand them. So all these together,
Oh, no, that's good.
they might be teaching one way or something. Self-forming. And those people are like, oh, well, not a Buddha, so this means and they're using things different ways. So then the Buddha is really the lesson trying to get these the cards that you're dealt, this question is posed because the whole course is talking about the Buddha taught three different things and they kind of contradict each other. That's why the question is posed. That's why they're saying, well, the Buddha's using self-formation to get people to get them all to We're saying, some people were saying the knowledge of the
So that I started hearing all the higher notes, and then it was middle, first, other voice, and then we started.
Jack, let you guys finish.
Materialism being like this exists for sure, and
You guys still don't finish. You guys are done? You check with Rachel.
only exists in my mind.
Thank you, Cyprian.
Yeah, it exists.
We're done. We understand it.
There's stuff out there. It is material, but
So, okay,
Describe three different levels of understanding, literal and figurative. Either where the person speaks and their intended meaning match each other, some literal, or not, so figurative.
Okay, 2 minutes.
And then, so on the level of reality, the way that an object appears to be is the way the object there's the way in which an object appears to be and the way in which the object is.
The older
on the level of reality. So the way we
They're all there.
Other
And you couldn't be like not aware. There's nothing anywhere that appears without anything else. And the reason for my question is always
Ready? It's Anna. Those configuration. Yeah. Maybe you can go collect them and then make them alternative. Thanks, David.
no from the front.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Cool. Thank you everyone for being so into it. I just kept hearing magnificent words over here in debates and like, what do you mean? Like, you've covered most of what I have to cover. I heard the pen explain. Who did an emptiness explanation because of the thing? Yeah, I heard it over there. I heard it over there. Did you guys do it as well? Do the pen ish? It came up. Yeah. Yeah, but it was under a similar vein. So I don't know. Please don't mistake tonight as a mental philosophical exercise. Yeah, it would be a grave mistake to think that you're having mental masturbation. Yeah, it's not that. There is something in the ideas tonight that if you latch onto them, they could break open decades of pain and release you from misunderstanding, the constant feeling that something magical is just around the corner and you're always missing it. So please don't interpret tonight's talk on the idea of emptiness by Buddhists as something that's heady and we need to understand. If anything, forget Buddhists. I don't want you to be Buddhist. I don't want to be a Buddhist. It's not a Buddhist thing. Buddha woke up, yeah, the one who woke up, Buddha, woked, yeah, Buddhists wake-upists, yeah? Wake-upists from the misconception that causes our suffering all the time. That I want to know. Not interested in knowing rituals and stuff for the sake of being a Buddhist. They die too. Yeah? They hurt too. They get jealous too. They have breakups too. Yeah? No one's immune. So I'm not interested in that. If that's a barrier for tonight, piss it off for an hour. Yeah? Imagine it's outside. And for a second, you have a fresh mind to look at reality with fresh eyes. Like a newborn adult stepped into the world for the first time. You just got dumped here by an alien spaceship and you're looking at this weird thing called human existence in New York City. What the hell's going on? Why are people drinking in the corner? What is making that happen? Why are people breaking up and yelling at each other? Why are they talking to black mirrors? Yeah? What are they looking for? Why is everyone rushing? And then why do they go home and quiet desperation, fall asleep worried, wake up anxious, grab onto the beautiful thing that makes them happy and watch it disappear in their hands, and then go grab another thing that looks exactly like that and watch it disappear. I get another one. And then grab another one and watch it disappear and not know why. Wake up from that is the point of the ideas in all these courses, the 7 years, the 25 years of study, the hours of meditation on the cushion, mostly struggling against the thought that looks at this in that philosophical, if I get this, I'm fixed. It's not that. That's why it's called a practice. You get an idea and you practice it, and you will get a result. That law is not unique to Buddhists or physicists. Every action must have an equal and opposite reaction, including your consciousness. What? That was the biggest aha when I sat in these courses by mistake 20-something years ago. Causation is true even for my mind. So if I put garbage, I have a tendency to experience garbage. If I put goodness, I have a tendency to experience goodness. What? I can cause my reality. It's not just being sucked into my senses and I am a victim of reality. So these words, these ideas, which we get just to touch, and I heard each of you like nectar bring it to each other. It moved me to hear real people trying to understand real life with ancient wisdom that still functions. Because it reminded me of stumbling into this thing called 3 Jewels and watching all these weird Buddhists, 2 of which are here. and feeling the knock over the head of the habituation of thinking I had to fix my world in a certain way. And coming to these classes bashed me enough to go, there's a different way. And 20 years later, I'm still trying. And I can tell you, I'm not fixed. World still suffering rains upon me like it rains upon you. That won't stop. But the way you see that, and the way you see that ending, diminishing, you only need a little window, and I've had enough of those windows in meditation retreat, in magical experiences that are not crazy, are not like real solid experiences where the veil of what we think is so solid, our world, just opens up a tiny bit, and all these ideas come to life. And look, there's no other way to see it but this when you are in that state, when you have calmed your mind through the practices of meditation and virtue and service and the rest. 20 years on, I've had 3 nice experiences, or I'm exaggerating, 2 probably. But when you see that, that, and you feel it, it's a visceral experience that the words that we speak in these classes can turn into a realization. They've realized, they've become real in you. You can't undo that stuff. Yeah, if I tell you this is an axe and you all learn it's an axe, and then one day someone says to you after 20 years, you know, it could be a phone. And you're like, whoa, you can't undo phone. Right? After that, you're like, forget the axe, this is a phone. And you won't ever see this axe as a phone again. You thought it was an axe for all your life. And instead, it was some magical tool that let you communicate with beings all over the place. You can't undo that stuff if you see that. And so I beg you, and I know you've done it already in your things, don't listen to tonight with the thought that I'm going to learn Buddhism and I'll be fixed. No, because that's garbage, just the same garbage we're used to drinking. Yeah? We can turn Buddhism into garbage too. That's the problem, you know? And so please, there is something, and you're needed in that transaction. Anything I'm saying tonight that will, from its own side, deliver you insight. Sorry, you have to work. Because if that was true, then everybody that listened to Buddha or Jesus or Muhammad would be like, ding, I'm fixed. Not true. You have to do some work. And that means work. So I'm grateful you all reviewed that. From these three ways of explaining the world that the wake-uppists did 2,500 years ago, and then all these other wannabe wake-uppists said, let me figure that out too, yeah? There grew 4 great schools of ancient India, yeah? And I'm not covering this. We covered this, you'll get it in detail, yeah? And these differ in practice and in view, most importantly about the idea of karma and emptiness. Emptiness, which we'll cover tonight, and you all touched a little bit, the way things ultimately are. You can't go anywhere beyond that ultimate when you investigate things. And what makes them so, karma, the cause, and what makes those causes work, karma and emptiness. Those two big ideas of the wake-uppers, the original wake-uppers, yeah, are in question here tonight, because 2,600 years later, there have been quite a few of you getting these ideas throughout history with different skin colors, different languages, different wants, different sufferings, coming to these ideas going, I'm going to learn this wake-uppers thing. And some woke up. We're the remaining ones here on planet Earth that haven't woke up yet. There's a bunch of people who's like, ding, I figured it out. I am now called an enlightened being. I'm in nirvana. I've achieved enlightenment. I've become a Buddha. And we're the suckers stuck behind going, oh, what is it? Yes. But out of those ways that the Buddha taught, four schools grew, and 2,500 years of practicing these practices with a particular view will give you a particular result. So it's vital, and it's really important if we want to speed up and not have to do this for 2,500 years ourselves, is maybe learn from some of the poor bastards who succeeded and failed in the past. Yeah? I'm imagining them here. I'm apologizing for calling them bastards. Yeah? They know I mean it nicely. So the most precious idea in all of Buddha's thought is this idea of emptiness. Yeah? And if we get that right, you are 90% there. If you get that right, you are 90% there. The next 10% is your actions. So the text, you know, we're studying is Dranghe. It's the essence of eloquence. It's one of the most exquisite texts and revered texts of Tsongkhapa, the first teacher of the Dalai Lama. The importance of this course, the application of it, so I'm saying don't think of it as a mental exercise, is that every practice by, you know, if you're the alien diving in here, checking out all these humans, and you could see in the past, and you can see in the future, you'd see lots of skin colors, lots of continents, lots of languages, lots of movement, lots of activities, lots of rituals of these things we call humans, these creatures, doing stuff to try and wake up, try and get ultimately what they want, that happiness, right? And they come in all shapes and sizes. And there are virtuous practices in every tradition on the planet. Yeah, Christianity, Judaism, Taoism, even Buddhism, I'm putting that in there too. Yeah, so let's grab this body and sit in meditation. Good. They all have it. Yeah, they all have meditation. They all have be kind. They all have contemplate. They all have do some weird ritual. You know, they all ask you to move your bodies in a particular way and think about things in a particular way. All of them. There's something in that. And the magic of the idea of emptiness, the explanation of emptiness from Lord Buddha, is that it actually makes things function. It makes things where any practice will be turned on. After I got a taste of seeing the world through the lens of emptiness, karma and emptiness, then I could go back to where I was born in Argentina and not think all my friends were weirdos by seeing a Virgin Mary in the cave. I used to think they're weirdos. Yeah, but they were really moved by the Virgin Mary in the cave. And their lives changed, and they did their lives differently. But I didn't see no Virgin Mary, so they're crazy, right? I could then, after understanding a little bit of this karma emptiness idea, I could go back to those people and understand that it is possible for them to have a valid experience that is true as this is true to them, that they had a divine engagement with a divine being. Possible. And every other practice of that kind, every yogi, everyone. Possible and not crazy. Possible. And in fact, that was the thing that got me sucked into here in the first place. Most of you know my first one of the practices they make you try in Wake Upism is imagine your teacher, yeah, the perfect teacher, a Buddha or Jesus or whoever, right? Imagine the perfect being. It's a trick to get your mind conceiving of perfection, mental and physical. Why? Because what you put in your mind, you get a result. It took me decades to figure that out. It's a trick, right? And so I'd sit there and go, I don't believe in Jesus. I'm not doing that. Don't believe in Buddha. Don't believe in that. Like I'm sitting there, instead of doing what the Wake Upists asked me to do, I did the opposite. I'm like, not enlightened, that's stupid, that's a lie, no Virgin Mary, it's like that. And they're like, no, we want you to imagine a perfect being, or the closest you can. And the closest I could do was Joseph Campbell. Yeah? I'm like, he's seen all this stuff. Joseph Campbell, he's the closest to an awakened being I can really master, I can really believe in. I saw him. Yeah? He spoke truths to me. So there's me and Joseph Campbell hanging out in my meditation. Why Joseph Campbell? And I'm reviewing. And I remember this moment in an interview he gave, The Power of Myth. I was revering everything about him, and he was just off the cuff comment saying, there is Buddhism and there's Hinduism and there's this and there's that, and they all have these practices. He goes, I can understand them all because I'm a comparative religion scholar. But quite candidly and with a little bit of sadness, he said, but I'll never have an experience like that of a saint, because I haven't gone deep into any one of these practices. And it was what he didn't say that moved me. It was what he didn't say that made me come back to the Wake Upists. The Mainga. What he didn't say was, it's possible to have an experience like that of a saint. What? Joseph Campbell? He's one of those lunatics as well, like the Jesuses and the Buddhists. He believes in that. And that was my hook. And so that part of him came to my mind, and that let me try the next step, and the next step of these practices. I didn't want to be embarrassed and be like a weird yogi and a weird, I wanted to be normal. That's why I'm sitting here 22 years later with a long beard and necklace around. See, this is normal. Welcome to normal. So anyway, what I'm saying to you is the ideas can shift a life, and you've only got one. Like this, with this awareness, with health, with the capacity of wanting to know, with enough upsetness that some shitty things are still chasing you, you ain't gonna fix them the normal way. I promise you. Yeah, don't waste your time. Honest, you won't. Just lift your head up from the crap and see everyone else hasn't done it too. You're not alone. There is a way, and the way's in here. It's not out there. It's not moving chairs and desks around to get your perfect environment. That ain't doing it. It doesn't mean you don't move chairs and tables though. Okay? So, the study of emptiness is the linchpin. If you get this, somewhere on all the teachings of emptiness, somewhere in there, you will be able to practice, and that practice will give you results for you. And I can't force you, I can't create it for you. You have to do that work, and I hope you do. It's worth it. So emptiness, the lack of something that our mind thinks is true, that is not only not true, it's not even there and never was. Yeah, I took it upon myself to reinterpret the emptiness.
Shame on
Yeah, shame. Emptiness. That, think of it this time, it's not blackness, it's not nothingness, it's not. The idea of emptiness is central. If you get this, everything else functions. If you don't get this, you'll waste decades doing this practice and doing that practice in any tradition. You don't have to be wake-upists, okay? In any tradition. But if you get this, it's like everything else is on fire. Because you intellectually, first of all, understand why, and then experientially, you begin to see the results. That takes time, yeah? But if you understand why, then you'll put in the time. If not, you'll just go for the next ice cream or the next shiny object, yeah? I'm doing upside down meditation. I'm doing naked yoga. I'm doing drunk yoga. I'm doing, that'll make me happy. Doesn't make me happy, no. So get that. Emptiness is something that isn't there that you thought was there. And that's the great tragedy. The suffering in our world, the way things are to us, is because we think things are a certain way that they're not even that way. Does that make sense? Like if you could see this for real, if you were a Joseph Campbell having an experience like that of a saint, you would, in a moment of meditation, be able to see for yourself for real that every suffering that ever came upon you and everyone else was caused by a misconception of a lie, of a thing that isn't even there. Thinking this was an axe. Why doesn't it cut? Sometimes it cuts. Must be an axe sometimes. So that's how things are not, is the study of emptiness. Sorry. But this is how things are. That's how they appear to us, this way. Inspired by super spiritual. Well, particularly, not that we're going to sit there and explain memes, but what I particularly like about this meme is next to Lisa is our conception that everyone else is happy. See the lady next to her, the girl next to her, she's like bouncing at nice, no problem. She's not getting hit in the face. We think everyone else is not getting hit in the face, but I am, right? And death is just always there. They can't wait to come and get us. Yeah, that's where we find ourselves. If you land on planet Earth right now, and you could see really, without our previous conditioning, what's going on here, This is what's going on here. If you could look into the nooks and crannies of other people's minds, this is what's going on. Envy for the girl who's not getting hit in the face, and every moment of rest, it's about to hit you in the face. The moments of pleasure are just about to turn to not pleasure. And at your back, always calling the guy on the skateboard. Yeah? So let's go look at 6 flavors of how things are not. Why? Because if we understand how things are not, it will alleviate suffering. It really will. But if Buddha taught 6 ways of how things are not, so if you go, oh, that's not an axe. Oh, I just figured that out. I'm going to use it as a phone now. All of a sudden, your world has more meaning, right? You're not trying to force this to be something it's not. Because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. All of a sudden, oh, I can use it as a phone. It's not an axe. You understand? Good. 6 ways to think how, 6 ways to see how things are not the way you think they are. Okay? So bear with me, my glasses don't work short distance, they just work long distance. And so this is mid distance and it's a problem for me. For those of you who were in the course and in previous courses, and you understand the different schools of Ancient India, I'm not going to talk about them. I just want to get to the essence. But I've put on the chart a little list of what the Hinayana school called no self, what the mind-only school calls no self. Yeah, these are all the functionalists. And then what the Majjhimika independent school calls no self-nature or emptiness, and what the Majjhimika Prasangika call emptiness. Yeah? For those of you who don't know what those words mean, good, you don't have to go there yet, just yet. So here is the chart. And the first level of how things are not is that things are not permanent. Yeah. So in the lower schools, in the Hinayana schools, emptiness is the fact that things are not permanent. Things are takpa, right? They're not unchanging. You all know that, right? Things are not unchanging. We all know that. That's not very big deal, stupid wake-upists, right? What the hell's that got to do with anything? The fact is that although we can say that intellectually, that's not how we operate. It really isn't how we operate. And then the understanding of this lack of self, the lack of how things are, they're not unchanging, meaning they are forever changing. They are forever, the guy on the skateboard is behind every one of you. Yeah? The reality of that, if you face up to it, you won't be so shocked and surprised and suffering so much when they catch up to you. Yeah? Because it's shocking when they catch up to you. From little sufferings to big sufferings. So everything must stop, must end, must die. This is like the application of this idea. If you understand this level of emptiness, that things are not unchanging, then you're like, oh, okay, I'll stop hurting as much as I normally do when things break. Because I expected it. I'm not sitting there holding on to, but why? And that sounds simple, right? Who thinks that's simple? Sounds simple. Most of you know, a couple of months ago, my mum passed away. I'm a professional wake-upist. I know this stuff really well. I'm in the room with my mum. And every day is moving through these different flavors of emptiness. I know she's dying. She's got cancer. We've done all the tests. She knows she's dying. I know she knows she's dying. She knows I know she's dying. The nurses know she's dying. All of us walking into that room are hoping that whatever we did next, whether it's give her a sip of this or do a shot of that or turn the lights down, will stay that way. Don't screw it up. There's some bullshit idea in our heads that somehow it will remain just us. And you all do this. That's why you go to work. That's why you have relationships. That's why you do stuff. It's like, if I just do that, it'll stay permanently. It won't. It's changing like that. Yeah. So even though it sounds extremely simplistic, the understanding that things are not unchanging can relieve a bunch of suffering, because you're not sitting there moving the next thing and pushing the next thing and shoving the next drink down her throat to say, if you drink this, you'll be fine. No, there's some acceptance of reality right there. And yes, I'm using an extreme example of my mum, but this is true of everything that's broken in your life, or breaking slowly. So that's the first flavor. You stop hurting as much when things break. That gives you some wisdom. Will that get you enlightened? Big question. Can that get you enlightened? Maybe. Or maybe it's just a step. It's not that it's wrong, it's true, but it's not all of it. So then there's another flavor of emptiness. Can someone read that? Because I can't read it from here. Lack of self.
Nature of a person, where the person is a self-standing, substantial thing. No Wizard of Oz driving your 5 heaps.
Yeah, so, there's an idea that there's some you in there controlling your actions, that you've got choice, right? Hector's got choice to put up his right hand. It's an illusion of choice. There is a Wizard of Oz Hector driving my physical and mental thing. Is that, we think that. You think you own your bloody body and mind. If anyone in here has meditated for the first time ever, you know for a fact you don't own your mind. It's some other thing called moving it. It's actually you, but from a long time ago. But that's another story. But you're not doing it in the moment. You're not. If you did, if you get this, if you understood this, that there is no Michael that's driving Michael, yeah? If you get this, you won't be disappointed when you wake up in a shitty mood in the morning. Because who wants to wake up in a shitty mood in the morning? Anyone really wants to wake up angry every morning? Put up your hand. Wants to be angry the entire day and frustrated at everyone, the smelly armpits in the subway, the yelling boss. Anyone want hands up? No. So why do you? Why do we? There's no Wizard of Oz in there. If you get this lack of self-nature, the way things are not, there's no driver in there. If you get this level of emptiness of a person, that can alleviate some frustration when you wake up shitty in the morning. Something else is causing it. Maybe you can find the real cause of that rather than continuing to be frustrated all day. It's another example of the axe. Simple so far? Oh, bloody wake-upists. So what's the good of this? So, we have this, is that up there or not? Sorry. Yeah. When things sort of fling out of control, you won't be like suffering because you understand. There's something else pushing this experience along. It ain't the Wizard of Oz choosing to be upset. You're not an evil person. Yeah? I yelled at Stephen yesterday. Sarah was in front of me. Sorry, bring that up. Yeah. I felt out of control. I'm like, shut your mouth, Hector, shut your mouth. Stephen's eyes, like, if you've ever looked into Stephen's eyes, they're the most beautiful things, except when he's angry. No. They're the most beautiful things. And they were dilated from anger or fear. I don't know. But I was not helping. And I couldn't stop myself. I'm like, you have to prove a point. You've got to do this. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. And I couldn't. If I'd remembered that there's no Wizard of Oz, I wouldn't be struggling. Hector, you're a terrible person. Look at this. You're a bad practitioner. You can't even do it. That added to the things I was bombing out to Stephen. So if you knew that about yourself, you wouldn't be down on yourself all the time about things that just need fixing. I should have just shut my mouth. Found a better time to have the discussion. So this understanding how things are not can alleviate a whole bunch of other suffering that we carry with us all around that eventually turns into the guy with a skateboard, okay? Eventually the art suffering turns into the guy with a skateboard. So that's out of control. And it was true in that room with my mum. She tried, she really wanted to will herself free from dying of cancer. And she pushed her will onto, I'm going to do this now. And I'm going to do this. And we negotiated with death for weeks. And all of it was either my will or the doctor's will, or my sister's will, or my mother's will. Because we can fix it. No, we couldn't. When things start, they start breaking down, bodies included. Mental patterns included. If you understand that, you'd release the pedals from the moving along. A bunch of suffering disappears, and you can actually be with someone in a real way and create different imprints. But if you didn't know that, that's all you do, and that's all people did in all the other rooms on that ward. There were people sobbing, there were people screaming at each other, blaming the nurse, blaming the drugs. My family did it too. Trying to will a result. But if you understand that that's not how things are, that there isn't a Wizard of Oz that can control the result in the moment, can will this body to be something, then you relax. Something else is causing it. Maybe you get understanding, you get to investigate what's causing that, and it can lead you to right understanding. It's not that it's wrong. It's just another level up. It's one level up from the previous idea. Does that make sense? Sort of? Am I rambling? Good? Okay, good. The third level. I like this one because it's so close to the one that we've been teaching here for 7 years. We've been teaching here for 7 years the highest view. So in this course, we have to rewind and unlearn what we learned for 7 years, that thing about the pen, which I'll get to. Yeah, but this one is so close to that as well. It's the mind-only schools, I think. Yeah? Yeah, no. This is no separate karmic seed, is that what it says? I can't remember. Yeah? Okay, this is, Javier, welcome back. This is no kunchi in your dunchi. Yeah, yeah. There's no dunchi in your kunchi. No. There's, do you remember that? There's no, so the way you could use it, the lack of the self nature to things, objects and perceptions come from the same causes, yeah? So in the mind-only school, they say that all the stuff you're experiencing and you experiencing, they're coming from the same place. There's no coincidences. No, there's no accidents. There are coincidences. Yeah. And Rumi said it really beautifully, I think. He said, what you seek is seeking you. He said it in that way, which is really quite beautiful. It's the same idea. Everything in your world, because you're in front of it, is part of you. The same thing brought it about. You hate your job, that's your job. Not my job. I hate my own job. No. You know, you have this kind of problem in relationships. Who's moved 3 relationships and encountered a similar, very eerie similar problem? Yeah. It ain't their relationship. Yeah, she's like 2 hands, 3 feet. It ain't their relationship. Who's the common denominator? Yeah, but not me, Hector, the Wizard of Oz. Yeah, there's something that I'm bringing to this, and these levels of understanding can free us from the problems that cause. Because if it's another person that's abusive, or it's another person that cheats on me, or it's another person that, you're the common denominator. Either you're choosing those people, but there's something between you and them. She's not getting them. He's not getting them. They're getting their own nice problems. They're of their own making. So understanding these moves us from resistance to actually learning. It's like, why is it that I get this pattern in my life? All of a sudden, you get to figure out the cause. These are all driving us to the idea of karma. What causes these things? What causes these things? Yeah, all those three levels. The next one is it's still a mind-only school perspective. Remember, in this course, we divided the mind-only school into two different subsets because they were divided about the ultimate idea of emptiness. And this one says there's no contacts that necessarily apply to Shen ones. Is that right? Labels don't necessarily always apply to an object. Do you remember that? Yeah. So the fact that this is a glass is not a property of that thing. Understanding that level, it's not that this is a glass always. Or Kendrick Lamar is a great musician. Great musician doesn't necessarily apply to Kendrick Lamar. It's not that way. If you make it that way, if you don't understand that, you will suffer. You will have problems. Because you're going to try and shove Kendrick Lamar into everybody's throat. And some people are going to go, it's the worst thing I've ever heard. Not me. It's the worst thing I've ever heard. But what's wrong with you? Why don't you like what I like? It is a nice thing. And that causes problems. So if we want to alleviate those problems, those sufferings, we get to understand that all the labels we give to things unconsciously don't necessarily belong to all the objects that we're putting those labels onto. And this goes quite deep philosophically, especially when you take the course. It's way more than what I'm saying. But you get the flavor, right? You get the flavor. So things don't have natures by definition. It will cause us to stop fighting each other. Is that what I put there?
Over
Yeah. And makes you,
It says over bad music.
over bad music, yeah. Everything else, it's fine to fight over. Yeah. Not true. But do you get this? We experience things as human beings, and we are sure that that's the way things are. Yeah? So, in my mother's room, before she was passing, the doctor would come in, yeah? And I would see hope. My mother was neutral. My sister saw Dr. Death. She called him Dr. Death because he came with drugs. They're going to kill Mom. She actually called him Dr. Death to his face one time, and I didn't know where to hide. Yeah, because I was embarrassed. But she was having a valid perception. She really saw that man and believed he is the cause of my mother's death. Those drugs, this system is killing her. Really believed and held on to that. And it caused her to behave in certain ways in that hospital that caused her suffering. And I can't jump in her mind and undo it. Her label of that being was such that she was sure that was killing my mum. And here I am, as somebody who doesn't have that label, trying to communicate, and that suffering was so much that I became the devil too for defending Dr. Death. And there starts war. That's how wars start. You're not seeing the world the way I see it. Therefore, you're wrong. I punch you in the face. This is what we do. And if we don't do it in physical pain, we're doing it mentally all the time. All the time. You don't see the world like I do. Something's wrong with you, because it'd be too much if something was wrong with me. That would be problematic. So understanding that things are not what they seem will relieve a whole bunch of problems, suffering for you. The lack of things being the way you think they are, be labeled the way you think they are, understanding that emptiness, that will relieve a whole bunch of pain and let you reach nirvana It'll help, but can you reach nirvana? Big question. So I'm trying to get us to think about the 2,500 years of people like you who sat down with weird ideas, meditated and looked weird, and had aha realizations and were freed from suffering. So we don't have to do it over 2,000 years. But there are a bunch of people who tried that way and that way and that way, and it helped. But did it ultimately help? Big question. And which one will help you? Which one helped me and my mum in that room? So far, all of them. All of them, but they weren't enough. It was just like moving things around. There were moments where I thought, there's a real suffering there. Really, it's like that. She's done for. Nothing I can do. I can will it. If I will it, no, let go of that. Okay, that stopped it. Mum, let go. Okay, I will. Stopped a bunch of suffering. It's not Dr. Death. Now we get into the Madhyamika, the middle way Svatantrika, right? The implication, lower middle way school. And they have an interesting idea. It's so close, right? Emptiness to them means, someone read it, things don't have a nature existing from their own side. They need a not broken mind perceiving it. In other words, 50-50, yeah? There's something over there suggesting glass, but it won't be glass until there is a mind that can conceive of glass engaging with it. Yeah? So emptiness, a glass would be, emptiness would be a glass that existed separate from a mind conceiving of it. Yeah, there is stuff out there suggesting glass. It needs a mind to perceive it and call it validly glass. And upon that, then things are. A glass that could be glass by its own side to any mind will never exist, doesn't exist. And that's so close. But it still believes that there's stuff out there that has nature, or at least 50% nature. For these people, a tree that falls in the forest would fall, and nobody's around to hear it, will not make it a tree falling. Does that make sense? But half of the tree fell.
What's the difference between 6 and
Slight difference. It's coming. Yeah. So nothing has an identity independent from the mind that sees it. 50-50. This helps you, for those of us who studied Lojong, this special advice, it helps you to say, well, I'm partly responsible, it's partly responsible. It's the glass half full, glass half empty idea. You can live by this idea. Things are not the way they appear only. They require my mind. They're partly the way they appear, and they're partly my mind. So the part that is my mind, I can try and see this as a good thing, as half full glass, because I'm 50% responsible for this experience. Yeah, but it's missing this part. It helps. It helps in that you can turn you can turn problems into opportunities. That's why Lojong, the advice is of turn every problem into an opportunity. Oh, 50% of that is my responsibility. I can do that. So understanding that things are not problems just on their own, that it requires you to experience it as a problem. That's great, because then you've got to figure out, well, what do I need to do to stop making it as a problem? So that helps you, but it's no cigar. It's still believing that there is stuff out there projecting stuckness, glasses, cancer-s, deafness, half of him must be Dr. Deafness, and half of it is me calling it deluded, or she's deluded. Yeah, I still have a problem with this idea, but it helps. It helps in turning problems into opportunities, and that generates new imprints in our mind, new ideas for us, new causation. That's good. All of these help, but no cigar. Really no cigar. If we're going to go to the ultimate, the highest understanding of what emptiness is, we have to go to the Majjhimika Prasangika, and that's the pen thing. Yeah, that everything, nothing has a nature of its own at all. There is no nature at all in this stuff called glass. There's not even glassness, there's not even hardness, believe it or not. There's not even whatever the next thing was going to be. Ness. There's no ness to it. It is empty of any nature at all, and the nature is completely dependent on the mind experiencing, forced to experience, not by choice, forced to experience by the way you've done things in the past, you've treated others in the past. That stuff loaded in your consciousness, the stuff you've been putting into your mind by the way you treat her and him and her and them in this life and before. All the stuff in your mind is actually making this as real as it is what it is for you. It's a projection forced upon you by your past karma. And therein comes karma and emptiness. And that explanation umbrellas all of the previous explanations. It encompasses them. It doesn't negate them. It encompasses them, but there's no escaping this one. But now we have some problems. Does that mean there's no glass? Because it's my projection? No, we're talking about a glass. It's a glass. For whom? For those forced to perceive this as a glass. We call them humans. Those forced to experience this as a drowning ocean are not called humans. They're called little insects. Yeah? And from their perspective, from their valid conscious perception, their awareness of this reality, this ain't glass at all. It's never glass for them. It can't be glass. It's empty of being glass for them. It is death for them. For real, not pretend. It's still their mind experiencing this thus, and our minds experiencing our mind, this thus. Where did that come from? Did it come from here? It couldn't have. Couldn't have come this way. It must have come this way. And that understanding of emptiness all of a sudden turned on a fire inside of me that let me see, experience every weird practice from every religion and thing into a vehicle to wake up. Then it's a vehicle to wake up, because if the world is not being forced into your senses, and that is the world, we know that's not true because we have limit to our senses, so we're not really seeing everything visually or hearing the way things are. We're hearing based on a human range of hearing, a human range of seeing. Dogs have a different one, cats have a different one, bats don't even do that. Yeah? So the stuff to be seen is not what we're seeing. The stuff to be heard is not what we're hearing. What we are hearing is our minds interpreting, labeling the data that we are catching, right? And we think the world is coming at us, and that's what this world is. No. We are these powerful projectors of reality, unwillingly. It's forced out of you without your choice, because you can see this as death, or you could see this as bliss, or you could see this as glass. And it ain't coming from this. It never did. We still think it does. It never did. That's a being. A being is capable of experiencing that in all those ways and an infinite array more, dependent on them. I can't choose right now to make it bliss. I can't choose right now to drown in it. It is a glass. But where is glass? And when you go to look for it, you can't find it. It's in this part of the glass. And that's the study of the emptiness of this. Is like, let's find glass in this thing. You can never find it without this thing that is being forced upon us all the time. So then the study of karma becomes vital. Who's put that stuff in there to force me to have this reality and not the drowning reality? We know where it is. It's in your mind. So who put it there? Who recorded it? Who put those imprints there that grew and grew and grew? Causation. Yeah, you did. By every intention of every action you've ever done towards everyone, in secret or in public. It doesn't matter if you lock yourself in your room, still hating everyone, you're still coloring your mind with hatred. Or if you sit in a cave, imagining everybody will get awake, will wake up, would reach bliss, will understand. You're still doing it in your mind. And that must have a result. Every action must have a consequence. Consequences grow over time. These things were tiny little seeds. All of a sudden, they're massive things. This room was an idea, thanks to Pinterest. Yeah? And now it's this. Now, we didn't imagine the construction next door, but that's another story. So the last thing is the last view, the view of emptiness changes everything. And if I go back to that room with my mum, and I remember fighting all the different views, please, mum, stop having cancer, please don't die, try this drink. No, Dr. Death, don't give her those things for 3 days, she'll be fine. Please give her those things. Oh, it's 50% her, she is having death all upon her, and you can smell it. The stench of death was in the room when he was close. She could smell it, we could smell it. Oh, it must be 50% there and 50% us. My mind was churning through these things all the time. We're negotiating our reality this way all the time. At work, in our relationships, our self-image, everything, doing these negotiations. But when you slide in the middle way of thinking things are that way or not at all, when you slide in there, you can have a moment where the curtains open and you can see how, of course, Mum and I, the doctors and my sister, share in this perception, each one coloring it, not by choice, because none of us would have chosen that. It's really that for all of us, each of us having a slightly different flavor. And so I stopped the first 5 ways that my mind was trying to understand what was going on. And I talked to Mum. She understood enough of these to be able to have the conversation. She knew about the pen. And when we talked towards the end about that, things changed for her. And things changed for me. So I'd sit in the corner and I'd just look at her and she'd just look at me. Things that were happening were going to happen. And for a glimpse, you know, I could see how there was a body that had to finish. And there was a mind that was moving, coded with a life of activity in that particular mind. She could see the world only in the way she had been coding that mind. And there was my mind with these crazy ideas, looking at the love of your life, say goodbye. And for a second, it wasn't suffering. She smiled, I smiled. She said something bizarre in a moment where I was doing a practice. She used a word that was exactly at the right time that my practice was using that word, and there's no way she knew, and there's no way really that, but there was a coded message in that moment. Dr. Death was in the room. And this understanding that the situation is empty, that death and dying doesn't have that nature of being terrible and suffering, but it will happen to bodies, they will stop. Bodies don't need, the minds don't need to stop, they continue. And they'll continue in the same shape and form that you've been molding them. And I could see she was in good hands. And in that moment, then the suffering stopped. That understanding of how things are not really helped beyond all the other moments. And you can take that to your meditation cushion. You can take that then, and every practice can have meaning. Because when you're doing a certain asana in yoga, you could be stretching your body, or you could be transforming this entity. Both are true. both will have results. And so the way you look at it, the way you understand it to be, because it doesn't have a nature, and the way you are imbuing it with meaning through action towards you and others will get you on the speed track to enlightenment. And then it's possible for this thing that appears normal to be extraordinary. And for things that look like death to not be death, but a transition of something more. It is possible. There's no nature. There's no nature in deathness coming from it. It's all a forced experience based on the way you've coded that thing called your mind. And then meditation makes sense, then study makes sense, then contemplation makes sense, then asana and all the weird rituals make sense. So when we do that weird thing with these bodies, when we start the session, it's nothing to do with, oh, this is a really nice cushion, we homage to the cushion. It's not that. But what if moving your body is recording, planting seeds in your mind, just so that next time you see a cushion, your whole body-mind system says you're ready to wake up. Then all of a sudden, that action has become something that gets you to a step to wake-upism, to wake up. So it's the perfect place to leave this class on the idea of emptiness that can get you to this state of being beyond normal. Next week we're going to talk in general about all the 18 courses. I get freedom to talk about my experience of teaching this for 7 years. It wasn't what I intended. Someone asked me, can you teach a class? Yes. 7 years later, here I am. It's been an incredible transformation, physically and mentally. And it's been an honor beyond belief, and it's deepened my practice and my view of the world to the point where I could sit next to my dying mother and not lose my shit like people around me were. Yeah? Who gets to do that? In fact, see almost angelic opportunity in that same situation. I know it sounds weird. Yeah? I know it sounds weird, so I don't want to go and talk too much about that. But one can have a valid experience in that room of something beyond suffering. As a real thing, as real as you think this is real. Because an understanding of how things are not can turn on how things can ultimately be. And the possibilities are infinite. So thank you for coming to the last class. And I really hope you take these ideas and get something that says next time you hurt, next time you want to punch back, next time you actually have a beautiful thing ripen in your world, know that you have the power to continue the goodness to a place of ultimate and to stop the suffering, not just for yourself and in the moment, but for everyone else that ever has to go through that suffering. You, each of you have that power. And you have it today. You don't have it tomorrow, you have it today. Tomorrow things change. So please use it. And if you want to come and cry some more next week summary, let's do if you need to get access to all the courses, the readings, the quizzes, the recordings, they're on that hectormarcel.com, or go to the knowledge base and go to the Real Souls, the Master, Kishamoko Roach, and John and Connie are there, and there's a ton of, and they're in other languages, a ton of other more contemporary teachings as well. So let's do one second last dedication. May these 7 years turn into something powerful for every person that's ever walked into this room.
Sashi Puhi Jushim Nezotra Vira Linshi Ninte Yupadi Swange Shindu Mite Luardi Drogen Namda Shimla Chuparsho Idam Guru
Sudana Mandala Kamniyatayami Didyopu Sunam Yeshe Sokshin Sunam Yeshe Lejim We Dampakuni Harsho. What an honor and a privilege. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. If you're around, please come next Thursday. It will be more fun than tonight. Yeah. We'll just get to chat about practice, how to turn this into real practice day to day, what challenges you're going to have, because it won't be easy. But it wasn't going to be easy anyway, even without this. So please come next Thursday. You're all welcome. And we're just going to enjoy it. For those of you doing the meditation teacher training, Saturday we've got John and Connie teaching the entire day. Both John and Connie did 3 years meditation retreat individually. And like I said, I'm masters of these ideas. I'm grateful for you being in the room. I'm blessed to have you. Announcements, more stuff.
Yoga teacher training.
Yoga teacher training starts in January. We're ready to take up new volunteers. So you put up your hand if you did a yoga teacher training already, and only if you're going to say nice things. Yeah.
The early bird special ends this Saturday. So if you apply by Saturday, you'll save $550. And it's starting January 25th, and it's January to April. It's 10 weekends, 200 hours.
And yeah, it's not just a normal 200-hour teacher training. We are imbuing the ideas of Buddhist thought, these ideas of emptiness, with every one of the practices, the 8 limbs of yoga. Yeah, because what are the 8 limbs of yoga? Be good, don't be bad, breathe, asana, breathe, right? Then meditate, 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 right? Sorry, that's a bad summary. So yeah, please, it's a very unique program. You want to talk a little bit about what you experienced?
Yeah, sure, David. Yeah.
Or David, yeah.
I would just say if you're interested, it's certainly check it out. I'm happy to, feel free to come say hi. I'm happy to say answer any questions. The teachers are truly phenomenal, and I feel so grateful when I look at the opportunity that's available to you in that space. Is just, I'm a little it's beyond words for me right now. It's pretty incredible. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a real deal, and we got Rose Aaron as well this year, which is going to just blow it through the roof. And Coco, true, who also did 3-year retreat.
Shout out.
Yeah.
She's incredible. Stephen and I did yoga training with Coco, and she's just the most beautiful, incredible practitioner ever. I have so much reverence for her, and I want everyone to get to know.
So come next Thursday, we'll talk about what ACI looks like in 2019. So these classes and workshops at 3 Jewels. And become a member, come be part of this community. It's an incredible, incredible place. It's transformed lives in a genuine way for the better for so many. Yeah. So enjoy your evening. Yay, finished on time, first time in a long time. Yay!
9:32.
Huh?
9:32.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I take a picture of all of you?
Yeah.
Actually, can we take a picture together?
Yes.
Can you all come over here and someone take a picture?
Yeah.
Okay, put up your hand if you were in the first ACI class.
Wow.
Yeah. Congrats. Yeah. Can we all just come over here and take a quick picture? Would make me really happy. Yeah. Come, get close. Don't be shy. Yeah. Let's put that there. In front too. Come, get close. Don't be shy.